Hello there.
Greetings and salutations.
We haven't actually come up with a name for this thing yet, I just realized, but that's okay. For right now.
Yeah, we...
Maybe that'll just be one of the podcast episodes as we'll figure out a name for it. In the meantime, I am BenderBossGM. You can find me with that on any social media that exists right now. With me today is going to be my co-host, Adam. He is the handsomely bearded, mustachioed man with the beautiful cabinet in the background.
How's it going, everybody?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, we're doing real good here. All right,
fantastic.
So, hey, everybody, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. We're gonna be talking about some. Oh, sorry, I couldn't tell if you were going into something.
Oh, shit. So today we are joined by Caleb and Ron. Caleb, you are quite the expert on pretty much anything and everything D&D, especially when it comes to typical rules or questions about races, and you have a really good grasp on that kind of stuff. And Ron, I know that you have done plenty of D&D and stuff. You have quite a bit of experience in that and across other tables as well. So, yeah, it's a little bit of something about these two. If you want to give a little bit more about yourself, Caleb, you go first.
Hi, I'm Caleb, the disembodied voice on the internet. And you know what? That was a very touching compliment you gave me. It's more touching than any compliment my parents ever gave me. If I could shed a tear, but I'm not because I'm disembodied voice.
Oh, man, that's a shame, you know. Well, actually, you sound to be more of a masculine voice, so you're not supposed to be shedding tears anyways, according to toxic masculinity anyways.
Oh, well, I got better reprogram myself.
Yeah. ChatGPT is really dropping the ball on this one.
Yeah. All right. Ron, a little bit about yourself.
Hi. I'm kind of the exact opposite when it comes to my style of GMing. I'm much less enforcing of rules and more just letting it slide until I figure out how it actually works. So, yeah.
Okay, so you very much follow the rule of cool mentality, okay?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
And so, today's topic is going to be Ares effects for circles, cones, and cylinders on a grid. And this is usually, if I'm not mistaken, usually for magical properties, different cast spells and whatnot.
Or Dragonborns. Or me after Chipotle.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
All right. So, a little bit of something prior to this, we were talking about Fireball and how Fireball specifically states that the fire goes around corners, meaning that if you are within range, regardless if you had full cover before, if it is within range, you would still take the full damage from it unless you succeed your dexterity saving throw, in which case it would be halved. Does that sound right? Or am I, do I have a good grasp of that?
Yep, the only thing you missed was monks and rogues get evasion, so then they would take half or none on a fail and success. Well, that's semantics.
When do they reach that point where they can pull that off?
Level 7.
For both of them.
Correctamundo.
Oh my god, why isn't everyone those things? I mean, it's Dungeons & Dragons. Fireballs are inevitable, so that is a very helpful thing to have, especially in the late game when DMs like me get really lazy and all they do is give everyone Fireball and Lightning Bolt, and that's it.
Fireball for the win.
As long as you cast it centered on self.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. That was a fantastic one. one of the few scenarios. So I played a Dragonborn wizard named Blue Zero, and one of the spells he knew was Fireball. Naturally, because wizard, you're gonna learn Fireball.
It's required reading. Yeah.
Yeah, totally required. Totally required. And I was in a life or death situation. Being gripped by death. Down to, I think it was the last 4 hit points or 3 hit points, something like that.
You were on the edge.
And then, on the edge, and there was no way for me to escape because low dexterity or not really that strong in general. And, when you got something that's a size larger than you, and it just seemed like the natural way to go was, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
And it's not like he was just, trying to take out 1 or 2 guys. He was literally in a puddle of a demon's blood and essence where monsters kept sprouting up around him. So the very ground was trying to drag his soul down into hell.
And yeah, it was definitely a last-ditch effort, and because I killed something, and because I was a necromancer, I had Grim Harvest, which you get HP back if you kill something. So essentially, it was that scene from one of the Ice Age movies of, did you die? Well, sadly, yes, but I lived.
Oh my god. That was one of those moments where it was like, oh, what a sacrifice. And then you reminded me of the feat, and I'm just like, wait, you're alive?
I guess, it's how it goes.
Get the good side of a noble sacrifice.
All right. Well, that is definitely a, what would you call that? Was it a circle or a sphere of influence? Sphere. Okay. So a sphere is, just a 3D circle, let's be fair. Mm-hmm. But it still follows that same concept. Mm-hmm. So let's change focus here to more of the cones of stuff. What are some spells that have cone effects?
Well, there's good old-fashioned Burning Hands, level 1.
Also, your breath weapon if you're a Dragonborn, I believe.
True.
That's true.
Or if you're a dragon, trying to roast some good old-fashioned adventurers.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta roast adventurers. Their muscles are just so strong and tough.
Yeah, really gamey, from what I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know these things. I'm just a disembodied voice.
Disembodied voice.
So we'll start off with Burning Hands. Does that explicitly state for someone who might be in 3/4 cover or full cover? Would that be something that would go around, or is it kind of just hitting a solid wall at that point?
It doesn't say specifically, but if I remember correctly, because if you're in half cover, then you get a +2 to your AC, and it would be a +5 if you're in 3/4 cover. So that also applies to dexterity saving throws.
Okay.
Yeah, so since Burning Hands is a dexterity save, if you're behind half cover, you get +2 to your dexterity saving throw, or +5 for 3/4 cover. So yeah, but it doesn't, if you were to hit a wall though first, say if the wall wasn't there and you drew the cone and it would actually hit someone behind the wall, it wouldn't wrap around it. But say if it's just a half wall, you'd get that better chance to save from it, but it doesn't prevent you from getting hit.
Okay, so let's say you have someone that is sort of taking cover behind a 5-foot pillar. And it's one of them deals where you're shooting at an angle, so it would be, like a half or 3/4 cover kind of deal. So would you then rule that as long as that DC was met, that it would be, hey, DC was met, you saved, or it wasn't met, so you fail, and it would probably end up going easier for them to get, etc. But wouldn't there be some people that would probably argue because it is hitting something that it would potentially disperse away? What would be your thoughts on that?
Well, you said it yourself. If it's considered half cover or 3/4 cover, then there's a way for the fire to get through that gap, which is why you bump up your saving throw, because that's the whole point. It's takes longer. It's harder for the fire to get through, but not impossible.
And the dexterity throw would imply if you did it badly, even with that bonus, you basically just went deer in the headlights for a second and get fried like you do in the cartoons. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You dodge the top, but the bottom still gets you.
Yeah, and you also gotta remember, I mean, realistically, even if it can't go through the pole, I mean, it still can just kind of go around. So you're still gonna make the dex throw to do that, to get away from that.
I don't know, guys. I saw The Hobbit Part 2. They just hid behind some pillars and the fire went right past them, and it just did not affect the dwarves in the slightest. So, I mean,
I think that's what we would call full
In that
cover.
case, I'd say if it's straight on, that completely blocks the line of sight. That'd be total cover, then no save needed. But that's where Fireball is different, because say you're behind that pillar, the point of origin for the Fireball is in front of you, you can't see it, but that wraps around specifically. That's the difference between Burning Hands and Fireball.
that took me way too long to understand that difference. Wow, okay. Because, yeah, me as an early DM, I'd have a player just be like, well, I have this in the way. Does that mean I avoid it? And I just, high or low, luck of the draw. But knowing the mechanics, that ups the tension, actually, and it gives them more rolls, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but players love to roll things.
In Dungeons and Dragons, rolling dice? Preposterous.
Yeah, jeez. I don't know why.
What
you wanna do
heathens
that.
would decide to roll dice for things, Jeez, Dice gods say 7.
I much prefer just to sit down and talk for 6 hours about what I could potentially do.
Completely absurd that you'd like dice that much. I don't understand it. That is a huge mess I've just created for myself.
We'll be right back. While Matt decides to clean up all the D4s off the floor so he doesn't stab himself.
Wait, was Matt just talking about his normal D&D prep? Oh, I just made a mess for myself.
I feel like that's a lot of DMs.
There's so many times I have made a horrible mistake and given people things they should not have.
All right, Ron, remind me, what was the spell that you were talking about, or you were talking, I think it was for, was it Dragonborns and Dragons?
Yeah, the dragon breath.
Dragon Breath, okay.
Yeah.
Are you well versed enough in that to kind of share some of your opinions on how would you sort of rule some of those?
How I normally roll is it like any cone thing, it goes in a direction. I also use kind of like if it's something specific, especially it's like Dragon Breath because there's different types, I kind of think of how it would work. So like with fire, it kind of just flows in with, and lightning, that is more of, yes, a straight line, and if it hits that so-called pillar we're talking about, I do say that won't wrap around and that will split it and just kind of stop it. It all depends on what you have. Poison is, I treat more like a liquid, so it goes the distance, whatever happens. It could go around, it could not.
Okay, what about the people that say have poison as more of a gas? Because it's more of a breath, arguably, versus a liquid.
It's like a gas. It spreads around and it will still follow the cone, and that's more of just to keep it more balanced and just so you can't say I fill up the entire room with it.
Yeah.
But it will just go around in that cone to a certain height and everything, and still just go around in that entire area.
So you've got your breath weapons, and you're born with this ability. It's what the Dragonborns get. Does it scale at all? Like, is it actually feasible later on? Because I know Bo Zero was not much for his breath weapon by the end of the game.
Well, when you have other options.
Yeah, there is that. You do have better options usually by the end of it. I believe it does get more powerful though as you level up.
Mr. Encyclopedia, can you help us here?
Yeah, so the player's handbook Dragonborn, I believe, starts with 2d6 of dice damage, at first level, and then I think at 6th level it bumps up to 3d6, and I forget about the later levels, but I believe it goes
3d6 at 6, 4d6 at 11th, and then 5d6 at 16th.
Okay, which is a little off from the cantrip scaling, which is 5, 11, and 17, which don't ask me why they did that. But
Make it a little different.
But Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, they upped the Dragonborn's damage dice, or they changed it. So at first level you get 1d10, which could be better or worse, but then at 5th or 6th level, then it's 2d10s, then 3d10s, and 4d10s. So they make it a lot better, and you get more uses of it, because you get proficiency bonus uses per long rest, as opposed to player handbook. Then it's just 1 breath per short rest.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if that ends up being the rules that people end up going with, I feel like it would be a huge appeal to people using more of the Dragonborn abilities versus the rules that were in the player's handbook. Because like I said, by the time we were hitting that sort of section for the end game, there were so many other options that worked that if I was using my breath weapon, it was kind of more of a last resort. Because I was ranged. I was primarily ranged. It was something that, I had some spells for up close, but especially with the team that we had, the party, it made more sense to have someone ranged.
Yeah.
So
I think that makes sense. It makes me think, though, as a DM, like sitting here now post-session, aside from the fact that I never really did a great job of like stringing the spellcasters along on big quests that like burnt out their spell points, but what if you were put in a place where spells didn't work? Would a flame breath still work for you, or is that too magical for it not to work?
I always took it as it's a natural thing.
yeah, I would argue that it's natural.
Especially since some of animals in real life, they can't spit fire or lightning, but they can spit other things, and in some historical records, there are some bones that people believe have hollowed out points where they may believe could have been something that used to breathe fire in some sort of way, and that kind of is what inspired fire-breathing dragons in ancient history. But once again, that's all speculation, though.
Do you have a reference? Like, do you kind of know like roughly what it was or the time period?
For the Google machine.
Yeah, for the Google machine.
I don't. Sadly, I remember this is something I read about, but this is something I read about like 5-6 years ago, and it's just one of those basic trivia facts that I remember. I'm sorry.
Because I know I have read about particular dinosaurs, or I guess, I don't even know they'd be quite considered dinosaurs at that point, but there can be even more modern examples. We'll take a snake that is venomous, and they have the little pores for the venom to come through, or where the sac for the venom sacs to go. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at, having evidence of that for older, long gone animal creatures at the time.
Fair. There's also that one bird that lives on the cliffs that will spit that gross goop at people who get too close as a defense mechanism. There are a lot in.
I was thinking of octopus, or like a pistol strip, essentially. Imagine how terrifying an octopus looks, like spitting ink at you out of nowhere. I bet people thought they were being poisoned.
Exactly. So I say that it's more natural than anything.
Okay.
Now, if there's a straight up saying that it's like a magic attack, like just pure magic energy, then maybe you make the bet if they're out of spell slots, but that's not a thing.
Well, no, but I wouldn't even put it in the scenario of like they're out of spell slots, but like what if they're thrown to an anti-magic prison, you know? Sure, the people there would be smart enough to be like, all right, Dragonborn, we know your tricks, like don't do it. And they'd be like, oh no, of course, we never use our fire breath weapons at all in here.
Or maybe they've had bad issues with that, and they get a little discriminatory and put muzzles on them, or segregate them from the rest of everyone. You know, because if you actually look at a lot of the readings, especially with like how the drow treat their their prisoners and their slaves and whatnot, there's definitely, you know, a bit of what's the word I'm looking for here? I guess racism would be probably the closest thing I could think of.
I mean, they are races in 5e, so yeah, racism is probably it. By the way, just to put a little pointer of clarifying on this, both Zero and Wells here went through a 2-year campaign about the Abyss with me, which takes place in the Underdark, where the Drow are in charge, and you start off the quest, spoiler alert, as a slave. So you learn pretty quickly that they're a little bit on the racist side of the limelight.
Okay. Well, so to kind of get ourselves back on track here, and speaking of getting on track, what are some things that use cylinders? What are some spells that use cylinders?
Versus cones.
Yeah, versus cones.
Yes, one spell I know for sure is Moonbeam. 2nd level, essentially just this 10-foot radius, shining beacon of light comes down and does some damage to you. Also, if you're a shapeshifter, like a changeling or a werewolf, then you can't be shapeshifted in that area.
Wait, any shapeshifters changed back, or just those 2 that you mentioned there?
Anything with a shapeshifting ability. So I think like vampires, if they're like transformed into a bat, then they poof back to being a vampire.
They just start dropping.
Yeah, I believe the spell is 40 feet tall, so it acts just like a circle or like a sphere, but instead of going like a big dome if it's on the ground, or a sphere if it's in the air, it's just one big cylinder. So it's essentially 10-foot radius, so 20-foot diameter and 40 feet tall. Anything in there gets smacked.
And I can move it wherever I want?
And well, it depends on what the spell says. If the spell says you can move it 60 feet away, or if you can use an action to move it, then yes. But it depends on the spell.
So I can essentially just have like a beam of light hanging in the air, like just doing circles all turn if I just want to waste all my action economy?
I will not stop you from doing that, but yes.
All right, guys, we're opening up a rave.
Yes.
Let's see. It looks like it is a concentration spell up to 1 minute and has a range of 120 feet. And the casting time is 1 minute.
One action, you mean?
Or one action. Yeah, casting time is 1 action, and you have concentration up to 1 minute. It is a druidic druidic spell. And it looks like you can use your action to move the beam 60 feet in any direction. So yes, you would be able to.
But does it say if you can spin it for a rave?
I think, Ron, you're our expert on rule of cool. What do you say?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Could you spin Moonbeam around to create a rave?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You heard it from the man, folks.
There we go.
There you go.
Confirmation.
Rave approved.
And shout out, not sponsored, to Roll20 for giving us that information.
No, we are definitely not sponsored. This is podcast number 1.
Yeah.
Sponsor us. Please sponsor us.
I had a coworker, he does the podcast rounds because he's a WWE guy, and he was telling me, I was like, hey, I'm going to hire you one of these days. He told me he's going rate, and I was like, you're going to have to talk about Dungeons and Dragons for 30 minutes because I'm paying you to do it. He's like, you're going to get your nerd all over me. I seriously got to deal with that. I was like, for $bucks, yes.
Everybody's got a price.
Or whatever the amount is. Ooh, I should have said whatever the amount is.
There are many spells that are like, that use the cylinder.
I can't imagine there's a lot of them. No. Are you looking at a list right now?
I'm looking at a sorcerer spell list, but that's just because I play sorcerers a lot.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, there are many classes that have the ability to cast spells.
I know. This is just the first one I started looking at.
Yeah, of course.
Nope, that's Cone.
Yeah,
Okay.
like, you can look at different circle spells. For instance, it would appear that Spike Growth, that's a druid fairly early on. It's a 3rd level spell. Spike Growth for druids.
I like spikes.
Is considered a circle spell. Let's take a look.
While he's taking a quick peek there, I'm just going to go over, okay, so we've done the cone, we've done the cylinder, the big round tube that I can rave with. We talked about fireballs, spheres, and how they actually can wrap around corners, which makes them very dangerous as a result. I mean, imagine just dropping one in the center of a house. You know, you're going to, the vibrations, you're going to shake it up. Like, Wells, is there any sort of like talk on mechanics about that? Or is it just however the DM wants to rule a giant fireball exploding in a flammable house?
Are you talking about if the sphere is larger than the space it was cast in, if it explodes outward, you mean?
Yeah, basically.
Because in D&D 5e, there's no rules for that. It's sure it says it wraps around corners, but that's only if you cast it on the corner of something and that corner is within 20 feet radius of it. It would wrap around that corner, but it wouldn't keep expanding further out than the radius is. I believe in either 1st edition or 2nd edition, there's rules for that. Then if you cast it in if you're at the bottom of a well and you cast it on yourself, it would just spew fire from the top because it has all this volume that just can't fit in the well. So there's rules for that in earlier editions, but not in 5th edition.
I still like the idea of having a big old flaming cannon coming out of a well.
I love that too. Just plain older edition.
I think the oldest edition I've played was 3.5.
Yeah.
I think that was the oldest edition I played.
But speaking of things wrap around corners, it's important to note too, Fireball in the spell description explicitly states it wraps around corners. I know there's a 8th level spell called, Incendiary Cloud. That does the same thing. It's just this big white hot phosphorus gas that wraps around corners too. But it specifically states in the spell description that wraps around corners. So you can't just do it on anything because I think like one of them is called one of them's a ball of acid, vitriolic sphere or something. That one does not specify it goes around corners, which means if you're around the corner, you're safe from it.
And I'm going to say this is definitely probably my 3rd or 4th reminder that I need to know more about these spells before I can run games at high levels, because I would never even thought that phrasing could make such a big difference for so many spells at a high level, you know?
It's true, but at the same time, even though let's say it doesn't necessarily explicitly state that it can wrap around corners, it also might be situational, or as always, up to DM discretion, I would say.
High or low?
High or low. That, Matt, you've done high or low since day one that I've known you, and honestly, I feel like it helps keep the game moving pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But moving on, back to Spike Growth, I have to correct myself. It is a 2nd level spell, not a 3rd level spell. It is a 2nd level transmutation.
How dare you mislead the audience like that?
You tricksy bastard.
Oh, God. All right. I'm out of here, boys. I'm out.
Twitter, cancel this man.
Joke's on you, Twitter. I don't have a Twitter.
How are you alive?
How am I alive? Because I don't know. I'm a fucking cowboy today, I guess. So, I smoke a lot of cowboy killers, as they call them, and drink a lot of bourbon. So,
still outlive most of us.
Fair enough. So with it has a range of 150 feet, and it is a 20-foot radius centered on the point within range, and the ground. So it has to be at the ground level that it has to be pointed at. You can't just have it point at, a point in the air or anything like that. It specifically says the ground, and it twists and sprouts hard spikes and thorns. The area becomes difficult terrain for the duration. When a creature moves into this area, it takes 2d4 piercing damage for every 5 feet it travels. The transformation of the ground is camouflaged to look natural. Any creature that can't see the area at the time the spell is cast must make a wisdom perception check against your spell save DC to recognize the terrain as hazardous before entering it.
Okay. I kind of like that, because instead of it being a roll to see if you're just perceptive enough, which at a certain point most rogues are just going to like one-shot that like it's nothing, you're going against the cleverness and power of the actual spellcaster itself.
Yep. And with a duration of up to 10 minutes concentrating, if you kind of know when something is happening, like if there's something like a caravan that comes through at the same time every time, it could be potentially a good way to set up an ambush if you have 10 minutes of time.
I mean, I would say that I'm realizing more now than ever, a lot of these spells would be great trap setters. Like, not just traps you find, like you open a book and boom, fireball, but like you had a team of a couple of people, you know they're going through a certain area, you could deal a lot of damage with a really well-placed cone. Or fireball. Or just ground.
Yeah, that is fair. That is fair. You could easily do that.
Okay. So, all right. Cones, spheres, cylinders. What else we got?
So something we haven't covered yet is, because we've talked about, like for spike growth, it's 150 feet. That's the range you can cast it in. But the point of origin is only 20-foot radius from the point of origin. On a grid, a point of origin technically is not one of the squares, it's the intersection of the squares. So say a 5-foot radius would be 4 squares, because that would be from that radius, 5 feet out, draw a circle, you get 4 squares in it.
Okay.
And then there's spells like if it's centered on yourself, so Spirit Guardians is one of them, that it's a 15-foot emanation from yourself. Or, sorry, that's Pathfinder terms. For D&D 5e, it's just a spell that's centered on yourself that goes out 15 feet. So with that, if you are on the square, that means that covers the whole square, obviously, plus 3 more squares beyond that. So that's actually a different size. So technically, that 15-foot around yourself becomes 35 feet diameter, because 15 on one side of you, 15 on the other side of you, and 5 on the square you're on.
So let's say that someone actually does use the whole 150 feet to have it as the point of origin. Then that means that you could have another 20 feet beyond that would be part of that radius.
Yes, so then 150 feet away is the origin, and then 170 feet away from you is the furthest edge of that spike growth. Yes.
Wait. Hold on 1 second. Can I get that math one more time?
Yes, so if the point of origin from you is 150 feet away, the spell effect is 20-foot radius, so it extends 20 feet past that point of origin. So the farthest point would be 170 feet away from your current location.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, dang.
So that's one way to squeeze a little extra range out of your spells if you need that.
This time on D&D, how to effectively gain more range with your spells.
You're gonna need it. The bad guys are coming.
Yeah, we're gonna have spell sniper going on here, and just what was that one build that I saw? It was basically you ended up with just insane amount of range for your spells.
So probably some kind of Eldritch Blast Warlock kind of guy with some sorcerer levels. Because you get one of the Warlock invocations bumps your Eldritch Blast range out to 300 feet. Take Spell Sniper, that doubles it to 600, And then if you use Sorcerer Meta Magic, Extend Spell, or Distance Spell, yeah, then you get to spend a sorcery point to double your range. So that's 1,200 feet.
And if you're high enough,
that's what I was thinking of. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, but it sounded like you did 3 multi-classes there, or just 2?
No, it depends. You can either do one class with, you have to be a warlock for sure.
For sure.
And either you'd have to multi-class into sorcerer to get sorcery points, or you can take a feat to get 2 sorcery points, so you don't have to multi-class.
You can get sorcery points without actually being a sorcerer?
Yep. There's a feat for that in Tasha's.
The feat doesn't require you to be a sorcerer?
Correct. You can be to get extras, but you don't have to.
Yeah, it's just like your different magic initiate feats. You don't necessarily have to be a spellcaster. Like you could be a fighter and you take the magic initiate feat for one of your choosing, and you can technically use that to cast spells. Your modifiers are still something that you got to pay attention to, but you can do it.
Yep.
I mean, I hear this, and it's what motivates me to become a player again, because I'm a forever DM right now when I do play. Ron, have you ever done something janky like this with some weird feat stuff or multi-classing just to achieve some sort of specific tie or combo you were looking for?
To be honest, most of my games never really get past level 5, so. And then like classic online D&D, they usually end before then. Sad.
Yeah, that's gonna happen. It's the schedule monster. He's hard to slay.
Yeah,
and baddie in all of D&D.
And that would be a great topic for another podcast. That could be our next one even. Next time, understanding scheduling conflicts.
Go in the comments section below or wherever I'm pointing. It's one of them, and you're gonna tell us that you want that on the next episode, or else I'm gonna come to your house. No.
We will come to your house. We will kick down your door.
We wouldn't do that.
Fireball.
We wouldn't do that at all. We wouldn't do that.
Centered on self because we weren't thinking that far ahead. All right, you're in my house. What are we gonna do? To be honest, I didn't think I was gonna get this far.
Oh my God, mask your IP, children.
VPNs are your friend, unless you.
Speaking
you
of
got someone
masking
who
your
doesn't.
IP, no. What is the last one? I feel like there's something else we're not hitting on this when it comes to these.
No, we hit all 3 subjects that we wanted to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Well, if we want one extra thing about that radius on yourself. So like I said before, if it's a 15-foot radius from yourself, it's total of 35 feet diameter, including yourself. Say you have an ability or a spell that makes you grow in size. So Enlarge Reduce is a spell that lets you grow. So then that 15-foot radius is still 15 feet from you, but that includes all extra 4 squares that you're not taking up. So then that 15-foot went from 50-foot radius, 35-foot diameter, just got bumped up to 40 feet diameter. So just another way to get extra range.
Okay,
Nice.
so I have this. You're a large person. You're taking up this 20 square feet now at this point. 15-foot radius from yourself. You're going out 15 feet here, and 15 feet here.
Yep.
Hitting everybody in the yellow lines. Ignoring this yellow line. That's a garbage yellow line. Just the one that ends at the T.
Okay.
Huh.
And also, since it's technically from yourself, it acts as a dome around yourself. So if a little gnat is flying above you, a little bat, that'll get hit if it's above you.
Huh.
Oh my God, he created an army of enlarged gnats.
Oh dear.
Oh God.
I have a player who did that one time. It's a whole thing.
What would happen?
he worked in conjunction with
gnats.
somebody else to do that spell. He made 2 giant wasps into enormous creatures, or whatever the next size up is, and they became the most terrifying thing in the battle.
Oh yeah, no, I'm talking about like just like straight up gnats. Like, could they even damage someone?
I guess, is there like something that like is a creature, like a creature stat block for a gnat?
Probably not, but we can homebrew something.
Oh, sure.
Does 0 damage, but you have to make a Constitution saving throw or get infected with some kind of disease.
Gnats don't carry diseases though.
Well, I'm just doing a generic stat block for any insect that bites you and might contagious you.
I guess.
Contagious you? Is that a word?
I would call
It
it.
contagious you.
I would call it a sphere of gnats. And if you walk into them, you can you have to do a dex save or you get distracted. Because when you walk through a cloud,
A con save, otherwise you start choking on them.
there you
All right,
go.
it looks like the closest thing that they have for a gnat would be a swarm of insects in the official stuff going on here. They have a challenge rating of 1/2, 100 HP,
Makes sense.
AC of 12,
Seems a little
and
high.
average hit points of 22. They have a speed of 20 feet and a climbing speed of 20 feet. Strength -4 modifier, and intelligence -5 modifier.
Imagine failing
Makes
to
sense.
grapple that beast.
Yeah, trying to grapple a swarm of insects. Now there's something that I would like to see.
Well, in
wouldn't-
the stat block, does it say that they're immune to the grapple condition?
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah. They're immune to being charmed, frightened, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, prone, restrained, or stunned. They have blind sight, 10 feet, and their passive perception is 8.
That's not a terrible monster.
They resist bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage.
Oh, come on, slashing damage, really? It's a sword. It's like hitting them
no,
with
the
like.
whole point is that it's a swarm, so if you're gonna slice your sword down, you're gonna miss 90% of them. You're only gonna hit a few of them.
But like, what would you call it? Like, what type of like if you use a fly swatter on a person, wouldn't that be bludgeoning damage?
If you hit them hard enough.
Oh my god.
But like in D&D term, even if it did like 1d2 damage, I mean,
Okay.
what would that type of damage would that be?
Oh, you know, I actually listened to a podcast on that recently. I'm not going to plug it because this is ours. But someone talked about it. They were just like, oh, you know, a house cat can do like actual damage, but like that damage that they're dealing is like life-threatening damage. Like a regular cat pawing at you, it's not going to accidentally do 1d4 minus 2 damage to you. But like if the cat is furious, enraged, trying to kill you, if it scratches the right vein, it cuts you open, you're eventually going to die. Blood loss is a very real thing, especially on the battlefield. So when it says you take damage, that's a creature trying to physically, permanently harm you. So, you know, a gnat isn't going to do that much damage. It's not going to hit very often. It's very weak. It's got low health. But you see a small child wander out into the woods. These gnats haven't eaten in days. They're going to get a meal, you know, which is a great basis for an adventure. You know, maybe like there's a gnat king somewhere and he's really just the smelly guy who lives at the garbage dump. But he's accumulated all these gnats at this point from feeding them himself that they've become loyal. And now he just needs to be taken care of.
These quest plot hooks write themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, tiny beast, unaligned, armor class 12, hit points, average 2, it's 1d4, speed of 40 feet, climbing 30 feet, and its actions, it has a melee weapon attack, +0 to hit, reach 5 feet, 1 target, 1d1 slashing damage.
I they gave him 1d4.
1d1. So it just does 1 damage.
No, I'm surprised they gave him so much health. Like, still doing a d4 of damage. Oh no, well, it's 1d4. Sure, it can, but it can be 4 damage. health.
You know what that means though? That means that a cat, if it manages to hit a commoner 4 times, the commoner is dead. You
But
get knocked
that's a
unconscious.
cat like clawing at you that it's scratching you deep.
That's a Fisher cat.
that is
It's a
fair.
Fisher cat, essentially.
Yes. Okay.
The crazy cat lady. Oh, there we go. Villain or combatant. Crazy cat lady has just a swarm of cats. The cats are, like one cat, not probably a big deal, but she's the crazy cat lady. She has, we'll say, 25, 30 cats, and they're all getting sicked on the party. Well, that's going to be a problem.
I'm now picturing like a whole Stardew Valley adventure where like every door you open, it's like crazy cat lady or stinky gnat man or like the rat king. And you just have to like slowly clean up this town.
Lord of the Flies.
When you say crazy cat lady, is she herself a cat? So crazy tobacco lady?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. I like this. I like this a lot.
I like so many ideas.
But like,
We're gonna make a campaign or a one-shot based around this now. Go forth, my children!
Oh my god.
Yes.
If
I already have an idea.
I'm not even joking. If you could like extrapolate this idea onto Stardew Valley characters, you could do a 3 session quest about this, and they would fucking go ape shit.
All right.
okay.
Wait, there's something that you could come up with for the Patreon.
Yes, that's right. The Patreon, because we have one of those because it's 2023 and I'm very broke. This green screen is very cheap. But no, seriously, before we get on to all that, I want to thank everyone who stuck around to watch these or has watched any of the clips. I want to thank Ron and Caleb and my co-host Adam for all coming out. Thank you guys so much. Do you have anything else you want to say on the topic at hand or something D&D fun related real quick?
Next time on Cutting Wood.
That's gonna be our 100th episode. We're gonna keep making that joke.
Probably.
I was just happy to help join you guys, give you a little bit of my encyclopedic knowledge, just talk about random stuff, give you ideas for crazy cat ladies. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I'm just happy I could join you. It sounded a cool thing to do.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out and giving us your insight and knowledge. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for coming to see the BenderBossGM podcast. My name is Matt. I've been your host along with my friend Adam over here. We're going to try and do these every week, so keep an eye out for our shorts where you can see the clips. We're going to have the full video on YouTube hopefully soon-ish, not tonight, but tomorrow. And if you'd like to check out some before and after footage from this podcast, you can go to our Patreon. That's BenderBossGM at patreon.com, or any of the links will get you right there. You can get some extra clips. You can pay a few bucks to get some really good Dungeons and Dragons maps. Yes, we're going to plug it here, somewhere where I'm pointing. I'm the editor, so I've just done that to myself. He's pointing in good spots as well. But yeah, just come check it out. My maps are very cheap, but they're very well made, especially if you're running the Out of the Abyss module game right now. It's got some phenomenal stuff for you. And we will have some exclusive clips posted there, including some footage of us gaming after this. So come on and join us. I would appreciate any support I can get for you guys. Again, my name is Matt, BenderBossGM. Thank you guys for coming out.